So we can continue with the alimentary canal. We completed the buccal cavity, and the next part in the alimentary canal it is the pharynx. The buccal cavity it narrows behind as the pharynx, which in turn opens into the esophagus through the opening through gullet. And the buccal cavity and pharynx are sometimes referred as buccopharyngeal cavity. In the roof of the pharynx on either lateral side is present a wide eustachian opening which communicates with the middle ear. We have already seen it in the previous figure. So this is the eustachian opening. It is right. So it communicates with the middle ear, and the glottis, which is a median slit in the pharynx behind the tongue, it guards the entrance to the lungs. It is always opened during breathing but closes while food is being swallowed. In male frogs, two openings of vocal sac are also formed in the angle of the lower jaw on the floor of the pharynx. These act as resonators at the time of croaking, making the sound. It helps in actually increasing the sound. Okay. The next part is the esophagus, and the gullet leads into a short, broad, muscular part of the alimentary canal. It is known as esophagus. And this part of the alimentary canal, it is very short due to the absence of neck, but highly distensible, as its inner lining is thrown into large number of longitudinal folds. So hence it can be distended, it can be stretched out, the length can be increased. And this allows the sufficient expansion of esophagus during the passage of ingested food through it to the stomach, which opens into the stomach in such a way that no demarcation line is formed between the esophagus and stomach. That is, there is no differentiable junction between esophagus and the stomach. So it just passes into the stomach. Now the next part is the stomach. You can see the very short esophagus, it leads into the stomach here. Okay, it is the most important part of the alimentary canal where the digestion of the food it actually gets initiated with the help of certain enzymes secreted by the digestive glands situated in its wall. It is in the form of white curved tube, and it lies between the esophagus and the intestine, suspended by mesentery known as the mesogaster into the left side of the body cavity or the coelom. And it is distinguished into two parts, the larger, wider anterior cardiac stomach and the posterior, short, narrow pyloric stomach. The internal lining of the stomach has numerous longitudinal folds which may allow the expansion of the stomach whenever needed, just like as we can see in the case of the short esophagus. Its mucous epithelium possesses multicellular gastric glands which secrete pepsinogen enzyme and unicellular oxyntic glands which secrete hydrochloric acid. So the internal lining of the stomach, it contains many glands, and more important one among them are the gastric glands and the oxyntic glands. The gastric glands secrete the enzyme pepsinogen, while the oxyntic glands it secrete the hydrochloric acid. The pyloric end of the stomach is constricted, and its opening into the small intestine is guarded by a sphincter, a muscular sphincter. Okay, and this sphincter it regulates the passage of food from the stomach into the intestine. Now the intestine, you can see it is differentiated into the small intestine and the large intestine. The stomach leads into a long tubular and coiled intestine, and it is also attached to the body wall by way of mesentery. The small intestine, it lies in several loops supported by a fan-like membrane. You can see this is the mesentery. Okay, the anterior region of the small intestine, which curves upwards to form a U-shaped. Here you can see the stomach and the intestine. So it forms a U-shaped part with the stomach, and it is the duodenum. So that part is the duodenum. The rest part of it continues as the coiled ileum. So the whole this part is the ileum, and here you can see the duodenum. Okay, and in the duodenum we can see receiving the hepatopancreatic duct from the liver. So here you can see the duodenum, and you can see the liver over here and the pancreas over here. The ducts from these two, it joins together to form the hepatopancreatic duct and opens into the duodenum. Okay, and the pancreas and the liver are the major digestive glands. So you can see the internal mucus lining is thrown into transverse folds in the case of the intestine, the small intestine. Okay. Now, when we speak about the ileum, it is a long, narrow, very much coiled tube, and its lower end leads into the rectum. And the internal mucous lining of ileum forms longitudinal folds, and like here you can see they don't have any true villi or true glands in the iliac region. Digestion and absorption of food takes place in this particular part of the small intestine. Now its lower end opens into the lower end of the what you call the ileum. It opens into uh, the rectum. Okay. And yeah, opens into cloaca, actually, sorry, cloaca by sphinctered anus, and its mucous lining is, as we have seen, it is formed into longitudinal folds. Now, the last part is actually the cloaca, and this cloaca, it opens out by way of cloacal aperture. A cloaca is a small sac-like structure, receives openings of the anus, as we have already seen, as well as you can see the urinary bladder also opens into the cloaca. Okay. Now the cloaca opens towards the exterior through the cloacal aperture situated at the posterior end of the body. So this is with respect to the alimentary canal. So we can just see the alimentary canal starts with mouth, the buccal cavity, and through the glottis it enters the pharyngeal region and very short esophagus into the stomach. At the junction between esophagus and stomach, there is no muscular sphincter, um, and the stomach is divided into cardiac stomach and the pyloric stomach. The pyloric stomach opens into the intestine, the first part of the intestine. It is the what you call duodenum, and at the junction, you can see the duodenum. It receives the hepatopancreatic duct. Uh, then we have the iliac portion of the small intestine, and then the iliac portion of the what do you call ileum portion of the intestine, and then we have the like cloaca and cloacal aperture. Now, regarding the digestive glands, you can see that the wall of the or the epithelium or internal lining of the this one, the stomach, it contains the glands, the gastric glands, as well as the oxyntic glands. Gastric glands, it produces pepsinogen, while the oxyntic glands produces hydrochloric acid. Then we have the liver and the pancreas. It produces the bile and pancreas, what you call pancreatic juice, respectively. And then the walls of the internal lining of the small intestine also contain certain glands. It is commonly referred as the intestinal glands. So this is a whole thing about the alimentary canal and the digestive glands. Now we can see the digestive glands in detail. Okay, so the first one, as we have already seen, it is the what you call the as we saw, there are no salivary glands, and hence the digestion, the process doesn't start anywhere in the buccal cavity. Okay, so the first part of digestion takes place starts in the stomach. So that is the first what you call the digestive gland or digestion, the part which is involved in digestion. And for the purpose of digestion, they have gastric glands. It is found on the stomach wall, as we have already seen, and they secrete the gastric juice, which contains the enzyme pepsinogen, and the oxyntic cells, it produces the hydrochloric acid. The pepsinogen is actually the what you call proenzyme for the zymogen form of the pepsin, which is a protein breaking splitting enzyme. Okay. Now next one we have is the liver. Liver is a massive trilobed gland with uh, three lobes, as we have seen. That is a like a median, then right, and the left lobe. Okay. So it is the largest reddish-brown gland found in the anterior region of the body cavity, close to the heart and lungs. And it consists of, as we have seen, the lobes, three lobes, and it remain connected with each other. These lobes remain connected with each other by a narrow bridge of liver tissue. Um, Between the right and the left lobes, a thin-walled, round, large green-colored sac, which is referred as the gallbladder, is found. This gallbladder, it serves as a reservoir for the bile, which is constantly secreted by the hepatic cells or the liver cells. The bile, you can see here the how we will be detailing on how the liver is produced, sorry, what you call bile is produced and how it reaches the duodenum. Okay. Now, with respect to the next one, it is the pancreas, and pancreas is a like irregular branch. You can see over here. This is the part. Okay, this irregular shaped, right? A branched, flattened, pale-colored gland of exocrine and endocrine function. It is held by mesentery between the stomach and the duodenum, and it is traversed by a common bile duct. You can see a common bile duct. This is the common bile duct, and into this common bile duct, the pancreatic ducts also open, and before it reaches the, it opens into duodenum. The common bile duct plus the pancreatic ducts together form a common hepatopancreatic duct. Okay. Now we can see that apart from this, these two, pancreas and liver forms the two major glands. Apart from this, we can see there is one more, the intestine, and the intestinal yeah, glands are seen in the epithelial lining of the small intestine, and they secrete the intestinal juice, and this contains carbohydrate, enzymes required for breaking down carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. So these are the four uh, glandular part which is found in the digestive system of the frog. Okay, now we can see in detail the liver.